Bad events and bad situations happen to everybody, but I wanted to be here to say that you can find good in all things. So this story takes us back to August of 2017. At the time, I was a gymnast. I was training for level 7, and I had just gotten to practice. So at practice, I warmed up and I was sent floor. I began practicing my floor. I was doing my skills, warming up for my routines, and I did a switch leap. And when I did that switch leap, we are not sure if I was in the air or when I landed, but what happened was when I landed, I felt a pain surge through my knee and I sat down. I just immediately sat down and I didn't know what to do. So my coach kind of was like, "Hey, what happened?" And I was like, "I don't know, but my knee hurts really bad." Now, a little bit of background is that I actually had knee surgery end of May 2017 to clean up my knee because it was catching. So my knee should have been good. It should have had no problems. So she was like, "Okay, well, then we're going to ice it." So we iced my knee for 10 minutes, and my friends were all kind of like, "Are you okay?" And I was like, "I really don't know right now." So we iced it, and then I tried to stand, and I couldn't stand. It hurt really bad. So we got me on crutches, and within an hour, I was sent home to make a doctor's appointment and figure out what had happened. We go to the doctors, and they do x-rays, they do some testings, and they were like, "Oh, you probably just sprained your muscle." And so I was like, "Okay, that's not too bad." They're like, "So we'll take a week, and if it doesn't get better, then you need to call us and we'll talk more." So a week went by, and I was able to kind of hobble around without my crutches, but it still hurt really bad. So we made another appointment. I, at this point, was very discouraged, and I didn't know what was happening, and I was very confused. So they decided, you know what, maybe we'll give it an MRI. So we ended up scheduling an MRI and getting that done. The MRI results came back, and I had torn my meniscus, and normally you have your meniscus and it's in place. I ripped mine. It was hanging on by a thread and turned out of place. So it was not a good situation, and the news that came back was that I would have to have surgery. They weren't sure if they would have to remove the meniscus or if they were just going to sew it back up. They said that they were going to wait until they got in and decide what was best. They said that either they would take it out and the recovery would be shorter, but my knees wouldn't be as good, or they would sew it back up and I'd be off of my leg for 6 weeks on crutches with 0 weight allowance. So the day of surgery came September 20th, if I remember right, and I had my surgery. They ended up sewing it back together in place, and so I was stuck on crutches for 6 weeks, and I couldn't put any weight on my leg. At that time, I also had to get my wisdom teeth removed. So about 3 weeks in, I ended up getting my wisdom teeth removed and had to hobble around with my chubby cheeks on crutches. It was a pretty miserable time in my life. I couldn't do any gymnastics. I couldn't see any friends. I did this online school, so I wasn't able to see many people. I was doing online school because of my gymnastics, and so it was definitely a hard time, and I was definitely pulling away from situations that I was used to. The 6 weeks were definitely rough, but what came to follow was 2 to 3 months of just building up my muscle again, and that was really hard. I went to physical therapy, and I started training again by just going and doing motions with my body to help retain my muscle. And it was a time that I originally thought was really bad, but looking back on it, after I had gotten better, I had learned so many new things. During that time, I was able to watch and learn so much. I was able to see a lot. I learned that I love to watch people. I love to see how people react. I learned a lot about myself and who I wanted to become. I was able to discover photography and develop more talents that didn't really require me being super mobile. And so even though it was a hard time in my life, I was able to see the good in it. at the end. There was a light at the end of the tunnel. I was able to come back stronger into gymnastics, and I continued to do it for another 2 years. It was a great time in my life now that I think back on it, and I'm really grateful for the experience, even though it seemed hard and it seemed like it was just some terrible thing that had happened to me. It really was for my benefit, and even though I at first thought I had just lost so much, I mean, I wasn't able to compete that season, and I just felt so broken down. I gained so much and I learned so much about myself, and I was able to come back a stronger person. So I'm really grateful for my experience, and I hope that through the tough times you guys will be able to look for the good and know that even when things get bad, you can learn something and take something from it. So thank you.